Glenn Quagmire is one of the worst characters in TV history. When you can make people sympathize with Brian Griffin, that is an accomplishment. The man is a sexual deviant that even Barney Stinson would call out for lack of human decency. I could go on with the list of atrocities he's committed throughout the course of Family Guy, but I want to keep this video shorter than the month of May. But what's become really annoying is when the show tries to make him the protagonist of an episode in order to try to humanize him more. I give credit that in Airport 07, what happened to him was not his fault, what with Peter being the one that took all of his plane's fuel. But even then they screwed it up because that was the episode where they showed he was involved in human trafficking! However, there has since been another episode that was far more egregious in trying to make Quagmire sympathetic and failing miserably. Let's look at Quagmire's mom. We start off with Peter realizing he doesn't have an actual checkbook on his person. Lois gave him a fake one, and I don't think I need to tell you all why she would do something like that. Peter demands he be added to the family's actual checking account, and when Lois relents and they go to register at the bank, they make a sudden never-before-noticed fact about Peter. His actual first name is Justin. The sad thing is, Peter going through the first 40 years of his life and 12 seasons of this show not knowing that is still only about the 937th most ludicrous thing to come out of this show. Naturally, Peter starts insisting he now go by the name of Justin, including dressing and acting like a Justin. Is this an attempt to make fun of Justin Bieber? Because you could just make fun of Justin Bieber. You don't have to try bad subtlety here. You've made fun of plenty of other celebrities more blatantly in the past. That having been said, the first half of the first act can actually be funny at times. I mean, of all the things Peter has spontaneously begun acting like throughout the course of this show, this one is among the least offensive and most ridiculous to just be entertaining. So let's derail the whole thing with an incredibly long side gag that's not funny at all. Anyway, this whole part of the plot climaxes with Peter holding a frat party at the house, and this finally drives Lois to put on the big boy pants and demand Peter get the name Justin officially removed so he'll stop acting like this. I'm surprised he didn't counter by demanding he get to change his name to Star-Lord. So, what was the point of all of that? Well, it was all just to set up Quagmire meeting a girl at the party that he of course takes home, only to find out the next morning that she is a literal girl. And then Joe immediately shows up with his deputies to arrest Glenn for statutory. How did they know that quickly? I mean, I'm sure the girl's parents called the police, but how did they know where she ended up?
Hello, my name is Glenn Quagmire. I am a neighbor of yours on Spooner Street. I am here to inform you that I am a sex offender.
How are you not already a sex offender? Look, I don't mean at all to trivialize the seriousness of statutory rape or the dangers of engaging in sex with underage people. But given everything else Glenn has done in his life, this is pretty low on the totem pole. Especially since everything was consensual and he didn't know at the time she was underage. That's one of the other things that gets me. This whole scenario had the potential to take on another controversial subject, but one worth discussing. It's outright stated in the episode that the girl Glenn slept with claimed she was 23. Now, I'm not a legal expert by any stretch of the imagination, but how is the girl not liable for something? Some form of coercion, maybe? How is she not at fault at all here? These are questions that at least would be worthy of tackling if these writers were willing to take chances. But we never even see the girl again after the first act. In fact, the show practically torments us by making it clear she's not going to be seen again. It really does make it look like the whole thing is a setup to make Quagmire look sympathetic by being railroaded into going to prison, which again is where he should have gone a long time ago for one thing he didn't intend to get caught up in. Thanks for trying to make me feel sorry for the guy who had several Asian sex slaves held prisoner in his garage and did actually rape at least one other teenage girl who he found bound and gagged in a bathroom. And what is this ultimately all about? To have Quagmire finally claim that the way he lives his life is all because of his mother. Yeah, it turns out his mom was a little bit of a loose woman, making him be born 9 times for the orgasms, sleeping with so many guys that that's how he learned his ABCs, and taking his best friend with her to the prom. So yeah, we're going with the negligent parent excuse for why he's a sociopath with women. And again, let's be clear about that. Glenn Quagmire is not just some stereotypical horny playa character. The man has allegedly raped underage women in the past. Even with my previous arguments as to whether this incident might not be completely his fault, getting him on a charge like this is like the feds getting Al Capone for tax fraud. No, Glenn, you don't get to blame your negligent mother for you being a predatory douchebag, because that is an insult to every single person who also had negligent parents and didn't use it as a crutch. Ultimately, you are responsible for your own actions. I was raised my entire life by 2 incredibly loving and caring parents who were always there for me, and I turned into a loser who makes videos online and is almost certainly going to die alone. That's on me. I take full responsibility for my life. Maybe it's time you should too, Glenn. And for what it's worth, this is essentially what the judge says also, sentencing Quagmire to 20 years. And we don't even get the Kool-Aid Man joke here. Super lame. But it's right after the sentencing that guess who shows up?
Mom?
Crystal?
Yep, it's Mommy Dearest. And she claims that she's all reformed and found religion and all that bullcrap that was dated 20 years ago in this type of story. She begs the judge to be lenient, but the judge says no go and gives Glenn 24 hours to get his things in order because apparently he can just do that. The third act is just unwatchable. It seriously took all my willpower to watch it a second time just to be able to write this. Most of it is Mommy telling Glenn he needs to seek forgiveness through the Lord and all that crap. And Glenn firing back by saying everything that happened to him was her fault. And guess who this makes me want to sympathize with? Neither one of them! You have one guy who's done so many bad things in his life that I want to see bad things happen to him, and then you have him being told he has to face the consequences of his actions by the one person who has no business telling him that! Congrats, Family Guy! You got me pissed off at everyone here!
You're the one who made me what I am!
Oh, come on, Quagmire. You're a grown man, responsible for his own choices. Seems kind of cowardly to blame someone else for your problems.
God damn it, this show just made me agree with Brian! That should be a flogging offense! And then they just erase everything in the end by having Mommy Dearest bang the judge so he'll commute the sentence. You know what? As long as Glenn has to still register as a sex offender, I'll go with it. He doesn't have to register as a sex offender, does he? Seriously, what was the message of this episode? It's obviously not about Glenn finally facing comeuppance for his actions, because it all gets wiped away in the end. And if it's about his mother trying to finally seek complete redemption for her past, congratulations, she had to go back to her promiscuous ways to commit the one act that would allow her son to forgive her. That's a great Aesop! Ugh. Why does Family Guy insist on trying to force us into liking characters we don't? They tell us characters like Meg are supposed to be laughed at, and those are the ones we sympathize with. And then they pull crap like this with the douchebags of the show. And yeah, this is one of the worst examples. This is more than a case of tell, don't show. This is a case of telling us one thing after 12 seasons of showing us something entirely different. And oh, the irony. This episode got blowback from the Parents Television Council, who accused it of violating decency laws. I'm not one to ever side with a moral guardian censorship group, but at the same time, I'm not exactly on Family Guy's side here either. So in two ways, the show is trying to make me side with them for no reason other than my supposedly only other choice is to side with people who are worse. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, and I'm stuck in the middle. Isn't that a perfect metaphor for the world today?